Alright, so this is Andrew Ruff. I'm going to be talking about the project that I have collaborated with Dottie Hildrich on for CS315 Internet Programming. This website is called A Brief Introduction to Coffee, and the purpose of this website originally was basically just to introduce people totally new to um, taking the coffee, the beverage, to any extent seriously, to a lot of the complexity and intricacy that's present. So it talks about things like what flavors there can be. There's this Specialty Coffee Association flavor wheel, which, as you can see, has a great variety of different things. And so there are a lot of these informational pages about things like different beverages, um, places that coffee beans come from. We have a little survey as well for one of the requirements. There's a blog with 2 reviews, and for the e-commerce portion, we added this shop page. So as you can see, the shop page, it only has 2 entries. These are both different kinds of coffee brewing equipment, and both of these come directly from our SQL database. And in fact, you can look and see in here, we have this products table, which has the information for both of these products in it. So now I'm going to demo a couple of differences between the website when you are and aren't logged in. So as you can see right now, the price here is $30. We do have a special member discount that you get when you're logged in. Additionally, when you go to normally when you're logged out, you see this login link on here, and you don't see the link for the account page, which is a different page. It's what you get when you're actually logged in. So if I log in here, admin badmin, well, that's not the right password, so it's not going to let us in. But if I do admin with the correct password, as you can see, we are now logged in. We can go to the account page. There's a logout button, and we also have access to things like the member discount, and this is stored in a session variable as well. So that is how we handle checking if the user is logged in. You'll see in the code, very often there will be checks for whether the session variable for the current user is set, and that's how we determine things like showing this member discount. I also thought that I would briefly show that we have done this using SQL, and so as you can see, I've only made one demo user, but here they are.
So in addition to logging in, users can also create a new account. So we have a separate page for that with a very similar form. So I can create any username and password as long as it's not blank. So if I leave either of these blank, it'll validate and make sure I don't do that. Additionally, it also checks to make sure that the username is not already taken. So for example, this username is already taken. So if I put an example password and use this username, I get an indication that that username is taken, and I have to create a new username. So if I create a new one, and then put in a password, I create an account, and I'm now logged in as that user, and I can log out. And finally, we can see that after I create the new user, it shows up in the user's database. So next we're going to take a look at the shopping cart feature. So first, if we head over to the shop, we can see the different items which are pulled from the SQL database. And we can take one of these items and add it to our cart. So we're now on the cart page. So the cart shows the items that we've added to the cart. We can also set it to 0 and update in order to remove items from our cart. So if we head back and add an item to the cart again, back of the cart, so now we have this item instead. So when the user is not logged in, the items in the cart are stored in a cookie. But if the user is logged in, so for example, if I were to log in here, go back to the cart, there are already items inside, And this is because if we head over to our SQL database, test user already has some items in the cart. If I were to change this to a 2 and remove this entirely, we can head back to the MySQL database and see that those values have changed. To be clear, Andrew and I are working on separate computers, so we've set up separate instances of the products database, which is why our footage shows different items. However, it works the same way on both computers, so there really isn't any difference. It's just the difference in the database itself. And we can also see that each item also has its own subtitle. And if we were to head to our account page and log out, and then head back to our cart, it goes back to the cookie so we can see what we had stored when we were logged out earlier. So I went ahead and logged back in, so now we can take a look at the checkout feature. So if we head over to the checkout page, on the right we'll get a subtotal. So this is a list of all the items that we've picked out. Subtotal, we add shipping, and then this is where tax is calculated. We get an overall total. And on the left we'll have our form. So each of these fields has different validation. So for example, if we leave street address and city blank with just white space, if we place a number in the state field, if we add characters to the zip field, the credit card number, and the CVV, or if we add the wrong format to the expiration date, we'll get different validations depending on the errors we put in. There are also different errors if the numbers, such as the zip and credit card, do not have enough digits, or if the state is not the correct number of digits. So we'll go ahead and put in an example here. So put in Missouri. And then for an expiration date, it checks for a specific format. So each of these has both JavaScript and PHP validation. The JavaScript comes first, so unless something goes wrong, it should never reach PHP validation. However, if it does, the validations are almost exactly the same as JavaScript, so if something goes wrong with the JavaScript and it's submitted anyway, there's secondary PHP validation that checks for almost the same things. So now if we go ahead and submit our order, we get a confirmation to let us know that it was successful, and if we head back to the cart is now empty. Additionally, though it can't directly be shown, every one of these fields is normalized in PHP, so special characters, slashes, and white space are all stripped in order to prevent injection. So finally, I'm going to show off some of the SQL commands that we execute in PHP. So first, for the login page, when the user enters a username and password, we run a SQL command that searches for that username and password, and if one is found, then we can log the user in with that username. Otherwise, we can display an error message. When the user creates a new account, we run a query to see if that username has already been taken, and then if any entries were found, then we display an error that says that username was taken. Otherwise, if it's a new username and password, we insert that into the database and then log their user in with a new username. And then for the shop, when the user opens the shop, we grab all of the products from the database and display them on the page. For the cart, we do the same thing, but we check for what items have been added to the cart database by the currently logged in user, and then we select from the shopping cart the items that match that username. And then for the cookies, we grab all the products and check which items have been set in the cookie and display those. And then finally for the checkout, we delete every item from the shopping cart that matches that user, and the cart for that user is cleared. Finally, we also have a mock PayPal checkout feature. So on the cart page, we have this checkout button. Opening the checkout button takes you to a PayPal login. So for example, If I were to put in my stream email, I would be given the option to create an account to pay for the items here. The amount doesn't match exactly since this is only a mock-up of an actual implementation and it's using the default values.